In February 1971, thousands of Americans did something that defied all logic. They mailed checks to a man in Kansas for an airplane that didn't exist. Not just blueprints, not just a concept, a $200 deposit for a personal jet that had never once left the ground. The man behind this audacious scheme was Jim Bede, and he was promising the impossible. A backyard-built aircraft that looked like a fighter jet, flew at 270 miles per hour, and cost less than a Volkswagen Beetle. Within months, over 4,300 people had handed over their money. By the time it collapsed, more than 12,000 orders had flooded in. The deposits totaled nearly $10 million. But here's what nobody tells you about Jim Bede's BD-5. Of the thousands who paid, fewer than 200 ever flew their planes. The rest received incomplete kits, broken promises, and in some cases, death sentences. Because this tiny aircraft would go on to kill more pilots per flight than almost any other plane in history. 15% of all BD-5 flights ended in fatal crashes. This is the story of aviation's greatest con artist, the engineer who hired Burt Rutan, fooled James Bond producers, and burned through a fortune chasing a dream that was doomed from the start. Jim Bede was no stranger to failure. In 1961, he founded Bede Aviation with dreams of revolutionizing personal flight. His first design, the BD-1, was a sleek two-seater meant to democratize the skies, but Bede ran out of money before he could finish it. Outside investors swooped in, kicked him out of his own company, and redesigned his creation as the American AA, One Yankee. Most people would have learned a lesson. Bede learned something different. He learned that the dream sells better than the product. By 1970, he was ready to try again. This time, bigger. This time, bolder. The BD-5 Micro looked like nothing aviation had ever seen. Picture a fighter jet shrunk to the size of a motorcycle. A sleek, bullet-shaped fuselage, barely 13 feet long. A bubble canopy where the pilot lay semi-reclined like a combat ace. Retractable landing gear. A pusher propeller powered by a snowmobile engine. And here's what made it irresistible. Bede promised you could build it yourself in your garage for just $1,800. He claimed it would take only 600 hours to assemble. He swore it would fly at 270 miles per hour and cost less than a Volkswagen Beetle to operate. In November 1970, Bede began selling glossy information packets packed with stunning photographs and astonishing performance specifications. The aviation press went absolutely wild. Popular Science ran breathless features. Enthusiasts traded rumors like gospel. But here's what nobody seemed to notice. The airplane didn't exist yet. Not as a flying machine. Not even as a complete prototype. On February 24, 1971, Bede started accepting $200 deposits for delivery positions. The target shipping date was May 1972. Think about that for a moment. Thousands of people mailed checks for an aircraft that had never left the ground. By August, 800 deposits had flooded in. Before the BD-5 had even completed high-speed taxi tests. The first real flight finally happened on September 12, 1971, powered by a 36-horsepower Polaris snowmobile engine. The results were deeply troubling. The original V-tail made the aircraft marginally stable at best. The engine sputtered and failed repeatedly. The Smithsonian would later deliver this damning verdict. Bede's enthusiasm led him to market the aircraft prematurely with a fatal flaw. By December 1971, Over 4,300 orders had been placed, making it one of the most popular aircraft projects in modern history. But Jim Bede had a problem. Actually, he had several, and every solution he found would only make things worse. In March 1972, Bede made what might have been the smartest decision of his career. He hired a 28-year-old stability and control engineer from Edwards Air Force Base named Burt Rutan. Yes, that Burt Rutan, the man who would later design Spaceship One and win the Ansari X Prize, the genius behind the Voyager aircraft that flew around the world without fuel. Rutan arrived at Bede headquarters in Newton, Kansas, and immediately discovered disaster. The prototype was hideously tail-heavy. His solution: fill the nose cone with lead. The flaps needed complete redesign. The stabilizer required repositioning. And the engines, they were catastrophic. Bede had partnered with Hertz Motor in Germany to build a power plant specifically for the BD-5. Test pilot Les Berven later admitted the horrifying truth. We broke every part of the engine on the test stand. Rings, cylinders, pistons, bearings, crankshafts. Everything went at one time or the other. In August 1972, during a demonstration flight for FAA officials, the engine seized 90 seconds after takeoff. Berven managed to glide back and crash land on the runway, destroying the nose gear. No Oshkosh permit, no certification progress, no working engine. But here's what nobody outside the company knew. While customers waited desperately for their kits, Bede was already chasing his next fantasy. In mid-1973, he unveiled the Bede-5J, a jet-powered version promising 300 miles per hour. Slick magazine advertisements proclaimed, "You've just run out of excuses for not owning your own airplane." Deposits poured in for this new miracle machine. Meanwhile, Rutan watched the original program collapse. If we can't even fly the airplane for 2 minutes, he wondered, how can we be sending out kits? But kits were shipping. Incomplete kits. Kits missing critical parts. Kits without engines. Because Bede had promised the power plants would follow later. By 1974, over 5,100 kits had gone out the door. Then, Hertz went bankrupt. 3,000 engines sat on production lines awaiting pistons that would never arrive. Just 500 had shipped. That same month, Burt Rutan resigned. His explanation was brutally honest. "I didn't want to be around when he went bankrupt and the lawsuits started." The financial reality was staggering. Bede had burned through $7 million in kit payments and another $2.7 million in production model deposits. The money that should have built airplanes had vanished into a constellation of side projects, prototypes, and broken promises. And the customers who actually completed their aircraft, they were about to discover something far worse than missing parts. The first 4 BD-5s completed with the short A wings all crashed on their initial flights. 3 pilots died. Of the first 25 aircraft finished with any wing configuration, 14 crashed. 9 more fatalities. The Aviation Safety Institute would eventually calculate a statistic that should have ended the program entirely. Approximately 15% of all BD-5 flights ended as fatal crashes. 15%. Think about what that means. If you flew a BD-5 7 times, statistically, one of those flights would kill you. The causes were devastating in their variety. Engine failures on takeoff left pilots with seconds to react. The high thrust line meant power-ups immediately pitched the nose up, stalling the aircraft before most pilots could respond. The original wing design featured a sharp stall with almost no warning, and a nasty tendency to snap roll. Some wingskins shipped with documented manufacturing defects. The center of gravity range was razor thin, making proper trim nearly impossible. In 1979, the bankruptcy became official. During proceedings, investigators discovered something shocking. $9 million had simply disappeared. Money ostensibly collected to build kits had been spent on a parade of other projects instead. The Federal Trade Commission responded with a consent decree banning Jim Bede from accepting aircraft deposits for 10 years. But here's the twist that defies all logic. In 1983, the Bede-5J appeared in the James Bond film Octopussy, becoming an international sensation. Audiences watched the tiny jet weave through hangars and outrun missiles, never knowing that real pilots were dying in these aircraft. And Jim Bede, the moment his FTC ban expired in 1989, he announced the BD-10, the world's first supersonic home-built jet. Mach 1.4, he promised. Deposits flooded in once again. 5 BD-10s were eventually built. 3 crashed during testing. 3 pilots killed, including 2 company presidents. The aircraft never exceeded Mach 0.83, not even close to supersonic. The pattern was complete. BD-1, taken away and finished by others. BD-5, thousands of broken promises and dozens of deaths. BD-10, more deposits, more crashes, more graves. Jim Bede died on July 9, 2015, at age 82, from an aneurysm. He never faced criminal charges. He never delivered on his grandest visions. Aviation historian Bud Davison summarized the tragedy with perfect clarity. Too much was said early in the game. Promises were made, performance figures quoted, and money taken. So when things didn't go like clockwork, the BD buying public got a little bit ticked off. A little bit ticked off. That might be the understatement of aviation history. What separates a visionary from a con artist? Jim Bede designed 18 aircraft in his lifetime. Bill Lear once called him Burt Rutan, who would go on to build Spaceship One and win the Ansari X Prize. Got his start in Bede's shop. The Bede-5J still holds the Guinness record for the world's smallest jet. And yet, over 12,000 people sent their money for planes that never arrived. Families lost fathers to an aircraft that killed 15% of everyone who flew it. The FTC banned him from taking deposits for a decade, and the moment that ban expired, he did it all again with the BD-10, killing 3 more pilots chasing a supersonic dream that never broke the sound barrier. Today, maybe 150 BD-5s still fly, maintained by devoted enthusiasts who solved the problems Bede never could. They're a testament to human ingenuity and a monument to misplaced trust. The BD-5 remains the most ordered kit aircraft in history. It's also one of the deadliest. Sometimes the most beautiful dreams come with the highest price. If this story fascinated you, subscribe now, because aviation's history is filled with visionaries who promised the impossible. Some delivered, most didn't. And telling the difference, that's where the real story begins.